Greetings everyone, Craig Hester here at r2awatches.com, and thank you for joining us again as we continue on our journey, and journey is really the right word for the watch we're talking about today, as we continue on our journey through all the watches and accessories that are available at r2awatches.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure and hit like and subscribe or ring that bell so that you get the early notifications when we put out a new video. You never know when there's going to be something special about a video that you're going to be you're going to be glad you were one of the first people to hear about it. If you're watching this on Facebook, be sure and join the closed group Vostok-Europe Timepieces. It is a closed group. You have to ask permission to join. Don't let the name fool you. We talk about more than just Vostok-Europe watches in that group. We talk about all of the watches, and everything that's available at r2awatches.com is the core thrust of that group. So be sure and join that. Today, we are talking about the space race from Vostok-Europe. And this, I got to tell you guys, if there were ever a case that a computer rendering does not do a watch justice, this would be it. These watches look so much more, they just look so much more fantastic, in person, of course, but in real photographs than the ones that are simply computer generated. And actually, Vostok-Europe's computer generated photos are really pretty good usually. It's just the nature of this particular watch with the way they did these dials that just pop like crazy. It just didn't do it justice. So space race, I think you can probably figure out without me spending a lot of time talking about it, that what the space race means. We're obviously talking about the space race between the United States and the USSR. And that's why on the back of every case back, there are the dates, 1957 to 1975. And then there are several there's imagery of a rocket. Here, I'll show you them. There you go, 1957, 1975, imagery of rockets. Those dates are really, really critical to the space race. The first date on there, 1957, is when Sputnik went up. We all, have seen the shows about it. Not sure how many of you guys might have been kicking around the planet in 1957. I wasn't. That was going to be another 10 years later when that miraculous event occurred. But if you know anything about Sputnik, if you know anything about the space race, you know that Sputnik going up, even though it was an extremely simple piece of equipment, it did a lot to instill fear, which you do in a Cold War in the United States, because of how quickly the Russians seem to be moving forward with their space program. Then after that came Gagarin's famed flight, and then you kind of know what all comes in between there. 1969, Gagarin's famed flight, and also Alexei Leonov's spacewalk. Those were both firsts, and they were first for Russia. Then the United States side of it hunkered down and said, well, we're gonna go to the moon first, and that's what happened. Obviously, the American space program was the one that ended up sending a man to the moon and returning him safely, as President Kennedy referred to it. And the reason in 1975 is that Soyuz Apollo handshake in Earth orbit, where Soviet Union cosmonauts and American astronauts actually, crossed over into each other's ship in a spirit of cooperation. And it is commonly thought to be the end of what we think of as the space race, because after that, it wasn't that much longer after that Russia and the United States started cooperating more in space endeavors as opposed to seeing each other as enemies. So there's a quick history of, not even close to a history of the space race, but a quick history of what the two dates mean on this watch, and the basic story of the watch being about the United States and Soviet Union's space race. Now, the watch itself, wow, do we have some really good looking watches here, guys. There's 8 executions altogether, 4 with the YN85 automatic movement, YN55, sorry. Abe was about to correct me, YN55, not YN85. And then the 6S21 chronograph. There's 4 of the chronograph and 4 of the automatics. The 6S21 being by Miyota. I'll show you all the colors I particularly like this one that I'm holding, the blue and yellow. That Sunray blue is just phenomenal. That is number A667. The last digits are always unique on a Vostok-Europe watch. Here we have this beautiful silver tone dial with light blue, with electric blue, cobalt blue, and light green accents. This one really is just a standout piece. By the way, please ignore these pieces of plastic that are on the sides of the watch. They're there to protect a new watch and keep it from getting scratched. I made a decision a while back to stop taking them off for shows, just because we didn't want to risk scratching a watch or anything else that would go along with not having that kind of protective covering on it. So just ignore that. It's actually plated in rose tone throughout. All right, another of the chronographs, a really nice chocolatey brown with yellow subdials. I've been really excited about the new colorways that Vostok-Europe has been doing. They really just come into a whole new era of color that they weren't doing before. It seems like now they've allowed themselves to just have fun with it. This white one is the B664. The one with the tobacco or chocolate brown is the A665. Here we've got your slate gray with sunray subdials. That's the 6S21. That's A666. It's A666. And then we've got black and yellow. That's number 668. And I'll start back over here with this really great yellow dial that just pops like crazy with that beautiful blue on it. That one is number A663. Oops. Then we have the all blue, really dark, deep blue. It's, oh God, it's just really such a gorgeous colors. That one is A661. And then the last is the slate black or patent. Oh no, it actually has a sunray, so it's sunray black. And that one is number A662. The reason that I gave you guys, and I went through that tedious process of giving you guys the actual SKU numbers, is because there are 8 SKUs here, and I wanted you to be able, if you're whatever one you were interested in, you should be able to find it by what we discussed here on the video. Now, other specs include, let's get this, the caliper. The caliper tells us, what does the caliper tell us? The caliper tells us I should hold the caliper up closer to the camera. 47 millimeter across for your diameter, and then a little over 16 millimeters thick. There are 2 options in terms of how you wear it. You've got the leather strap, which you see here on several of them, and you've also got the mesh, stainless steel mesh bracelet. Both of them look fantastic on this watch, and are easily wearable. I in particular like the leather on this particular watch because it is just a really nice, thick, just bold leather on here with the contrast stitching. I mean, you put that combination together with that, and you know, you look at this and you would think, oh, it needs a blue strap, but no, not really. This deeper brown works really great with the yellow and the blue. So now, other elements of this watch. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot. I got so caught up in the space race, I completely forgot to tell you who Vostok-Europe is. Well, maybe that'll keep some people watching until they get to that answer if they aren't familiar with Vostok-Europe already. Vostok-Europe is a boutique watch brand based in Vilnius, Lithuania. They design, hand assemble every single watch there with a team of 7 watchmakers, 7 full-time watchmakers. Their quality control is second to none. they have an inspiration for every watch, just like this Space Race is the inspiration for this watch. You know, the Energia, the Lunico 2, the Anchar, they're all inspired by something in terms of coming up with the look of the watch and it having an inspiration. And that is no different here, again, with the Space Race. So they are what I call a boutique watch company. They're not big, they're not small, they're kind of in between. And they produce 30 to 35,000 watches a year, which is, trust me, a very substantial number. And they're great people to work with. A shout out to all my buds at Vostok-Europe. So that's the dials for the Space Race. Here, let me show you the case back again. I think it's just such a cool case back. Bear with me a second while I take this protective, I will take off because the case back looks so much better without it on there. And you can see Space Race, the race to conquer space, 1957 to 1975. This is a 200-meter watch. So it is, in terms of water resistance, it's at the professional grade dive watch level, but because it doesn't have a unidirectional rotating bezel, or a bezel of any kind, well, it has a bezel, but not a rotating bezel. Because of that, it wouldn't be classified by PADI as a true professional grade diver. That being said, at 200-meter water resistance, if you've got another way to keep elapsed time, well, you've got the chronograph. Actually, could use that for elapsed time, but I'm not giving anybody any advice on how to handle diving, so let me clarify that. So it's not truly a professional grade dive watch, but again, at 200 meters. There's another thing about 200 meters that I like to talk about is that it's not just about water resistance. It's a symbol of how well the watch is made. In order for it to pass those tests, they have to have fantastic seals. They have to have, every place that needs an O-ring is going to have nothing but the best. It's an example. It speaks to the quality of the watch. That's really what it comes down to when you're talking about 200-meter water resistance. I'm sorry, I got struck by this dial. I just love that light, like powder blue against the cobalt blue, and the little pop of the red hand to look like a rocket. These are really good looking watches. They're in the mid-range of price for Vostok-Europe. They're not the highest, they're not the lowest. I guess that by definition means mid-range. I'm going to quickly do a wrist shot. I'm wearing my Scott-free watch today, but I'm going to take it off for a minute and just show you guys what this looks like on the wrist. And there you go. It's 47 millimeter, guys. I mean, you know, it's not a tiny watch. And because it doesn't have the bezel, the dial runs all the way to the end. That makes it look a little bigger than it is. I have a 7.5-inch wrist. I can wear this watch very comfortably. I like 47 millimeter as a size, actually, very much. So that's what it looks like on the wrist. And I didn't turn this back on, but I will now. So just to recap, this is about the space race. This is honoring the space race, the race to conquer space between the United States and USSR. You've got automatic options and you've got chronograph options. Now this is a full function chronograph, by the way, just so you know. 6S21 is a substantial movement. I say this all the time. There are quartz movements and there are quartz movements. This is a serious quartz movement. Now I just started, and I'm stopping the chronograph. The only thing I wanted to show you is once the chronograph is in motion, it almost sweeps like an automatic, and that's because there are also mechanical parts in this movement. It's what I tend to refer to as a hybrid movement. The VK64 is another example. Theirs is very different than this, and then that it has a module for the entire chronograph. But this has a module to give you that almost sweep second hand that you just covet in an automatic. All right, 8 styles. Lots to talk about here on the wrist. When somebody sees your watch, you've got a ton of story to tell them. I mean, and I love that. I love that when our watches are as much about telling a story as they are about telling time. So until next time, I am Craig Hester here with R2AWatches.com, and keep watching.